Welcome, everyone. This is the boot camp follow-up for 2024. I hope everyone had a great time at the Apex conference at Kscope 24 in Nashville. I hope everyone's, bounced back since attending that conference and have spent a lot of your extra free time and weekends and nights learning about Apex and developing custom applications for your organization. I mean, I might be, kidding myself a little bit there, but hopefully you've made some efforts. It'd be really cool if we could learn and get information about anybody that has actually gone through the process of becoming Apex certified. Like, did you start the foundations course or did you just go straight to the professional course material? Did you complete it? How long did it take? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And for those of you that have actually gone as far to get officially professionally certified as an Apex developer, we want to hear from you too. So if not necessarily in a chat here on the actual call, please feel free to reach back out via email, reach out to us on social media. You know my contact information. I'll share it again at the end of the session. But the reality here is we're back on this Zoom for the next hour and a half or so to talk about several new Apex pieces of content that you haven't seen at the boot camp, different materials can be presented live and unrehearsed with as minimal slide deck content as possible. We have Noah back and Paige and Leo, three Apex development team members that were present in Nashville giving their presentations. And I'm going to be starting with Noah and then moving to Paige and Leo. But ultimately, what we're going to be talking today about is template components and HTML template directives. Then we'll be talking about shared component groups, and then we'll be doing a deep dive in the Apex to Go app. So it's really kind of interesting to be able to have this opportunity to do this with you all, especially after a month or so since our event in Nashville. Is it actually 2 months now? Man, I keep forgetting where we're at. And with that having been said, we're going to switch over to Paige. Paige is going to talk about using shared component groups. Over to you, Paige.
Thanks, Jason, and great demo, Noah. Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Hanssen. I am a member of the Apex team, and I'm going to be talking about component subscriptions and groups today. So, in the spirit of minimal slides, even though I did bring slides, I will try to keep these slides fairly quick overall. But a quick introduction to component subscriptions. So, this is a feature in Apex that can be really powerful if you know how to use it. It allows you to reuse shared components across multiple apps in a workspace, and you can subscribe to components by copying them from other applications, and there's a subscribe option when you copy that component. So it's very easy to use if you know where it is and how to access it. But this allows you to make changes to components in one singular location. And then from there, you can publish changes, you can push and pull changes to subscribe components in other applications to quickly get those latest changes. You can also view the subscription status of subscribed components, which makes it clear when a subscribed component is out of date and needs to be refreshed so that you understand, when you can pull those changes from the subscribed component. So this solves a fairly common problem, I would say. If you need to use the same component across multiple apps, how might you go about creating it, right? If you're working on a team and I, as a developer, have created a plugin for the team to use that in multiple, maybe we have 5 different applications in the workspace, then maybe I'd create an individual export of the plugin, I'd share it with my developers, or maybe the developers are going to copy that directly to the individual applications, and they're very isolated within those applications. It's fine until maybe there's a bug in the plugin, and so I go in and fix it. Now each person has to recopy over that plugin, or I have to re-export it and send it out, right? So not ideal. That can be time consuming and tedious. And this is the problem that component subscription solves. So a quick diagram to help kind of like visualize what this process looks like. In this situation, it's helpful for me to have what I call a reference application, right? This is where if I've developed that plugin, it might live here, or any shared component that I want to be able to make available for my teammates to subscribe to is going to be living in this reference application. So we have that central location for our shared components that are going to be able to be subscribed to. And then we have these individual applications in our workspace that, me and my team are consistently working on, and they need to subscribe to that reference application. So we have all of our subscribing apps, we have our reference application. If I make a change to a shared component or to multiple shared components within that reference application, I can then, with one click, two clicks maybe, push out all of those changes to all the subscribing apps in one go, right? So this is that publish functionality that I mentioned in the first slide. This makes it super simple and super quick to just send those changes out to all those applications. I don't have to do any exporting. I don't have to delete and recopy, just one, two clicks, and it's out. On the flip side of that, you can also pull changes in from the reference application to the subscribing app. And uh, that's helpful if you want to only update an individual app, right? Maybe one of my subscribing apps I want to keep up to date. The other one is not quite ready to be updated yet. So I don't want to just publish all the changes in one go to all my apps. I only want to update selective apps. So that's another great feature, or a great part about this feature, is you can refresh individual components in individual applications. So that's a quick diagram. Hopefully that makes sense so far. Along with component subscriptions, we also have component groups. So this is a type of shared component which contains a collection of other shared components in an application. So shared component groups are helpful because you might have 20 components that you want to, refresh, update. Maybe they all are geared towards a specific use for a specific app. And so instead of subscribing to individual components in applications, you can create this component group and subscribe to that one group. And then from there, go ahead and refresh, push out changes all within a single action. So the component groups is like the simplified version of subscribing to all these different components in an application. So that wraps up the slides. Let's get into a quick demo. And so here in my workspace, I have a reference application and I have my subscribing app. So within my reference application, I've created a couple plugins. I have some REST data sources, an application process and item, and I'm going to create a component group. So by going to my application shared components, under other components, I have this components group option.
Hey, Paige, we're only
Yes.
seeing your slide right now. Should we be seeing the builder?
Oh, my bad. I paused. How does it look now?
Very good. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Let me just back up. So I have my subscribing app. I have my reference application. I'm going to choose my reference application and go into shared components. And under other components, I have this component groups option. So from here, I'll be able to create a component group and bring in some of these, maybe some plugins, bring in my REST data sources. I can kind of pick and choose what I want to put into that component group. So let's go ahead and do that. So from here, I'll click create, and I'm going to put components in here that are relevant to my movies watch list application. So this is if you guys aren't familiar, movies watch list is a hands-on lab that we often do as part of like demos. And it's always my go-to. So this is going to be my movies components. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. And from here, now I can see I have no components assigned to this right now, but I'll go ahead and assign some components. And from here, I can select my component type. And once I select that component type, I'll be able to choose from the left box and send them over to the right to add to my component group. So I know I have 4 REST data sources. I want to go ahead and add all of those. So I'm going to assign those, and then I'm going to assign some more because I can only do one component type at a time. I need my add user process, And I'm also going to bring over an item and assign that. So now I have four REST data sources, a process, and an item. And that was pretty simple so far, right? All of these are now contained in a group. If I want to remove them at any time, I can just click that delete button from the actions column. Pretty easy. So this is living in my reference application. I can now, from my subscribing app, subscribe to this component group from my reference application. So I'm going to navigate to component groups in my subscribing app, and I can choose this copy from another app from the tasks list on the right pane. So I'm going to choose copy from another app. I only have one other app in my workspace, but I want to make sure it's my reference application. And then I can select my component group, which is going to be movies components. Now, notice I have this subscribe option. If I were to turn subscribe off, what it's going to do is it's just going to copy everything that's in movies components and include the movies components group. And it's going to bring it over to this application, but I won't be able to have any of that refresh or publish functionality because it's not going to be subscribed to or linked to or referencing that original group in my reference application. So I want to make sure subscribe is on, and it is. So I'll click next. And then from here, I'm going to see what's going to happen. So none of these items or processes or data sources exist already in my workspace. And so I can see that all of them are going to be added to this, or not workspace, to this application. So these are all new things. That's great. And I'm going to copy component group. I do see a question, can I change the subscribe setting after the fact? The answer is yes. So on this page, now I've copied the component group, right? I can see the subscription status of everything. So everything's up to date because I just copied it over. I also have this unsubscribe option in the subscription region on the page. And if I click unsubscribe, then it'll remove that subscription. It will like cut that tie to the reference application. And that will take care of unsubscribing. And yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. So great. I've copied this over. This also has made copies of the REST data sources and all these components within my application. So if I go to shared components, I can now see I have my 4 REST data sources. Those were all copied over. And in these subscribed from and subscription status columns, I can see what app they're subscribed from and the status. So they're all up to date right now. Perfect. So that's super easy. Now this means that any changes I want to make, I actually cannot make them in here. So if I select one of these REST data sources, for example, you'll notice that I don't have any apply changes button. Like usually we have an apply changes or some kind of save action that we can do on the page. All of these, because they're subscribed to that reference application, these are going to be read only, right? So I'm not going to be able to make any changes to this. Sure, I can, play around with this, but again, I can make all the changes I want. I can't save them. There's no option to save this. So if I want to make any changes to components, I need to go back to my reference application, make a change, and then push those changes out. So let's do that right now. Let's make it just a small, easy modification to our add user application process. We're just going to change the PL SQL code to app user is what it's going to reference, validate it. Good. Now I'm going to click apply changes. I can do that here. And then from my component group, let's take a look at that again. And let's add a plugin to this group. So we're going to choose plugin. And I have a video component that's just a very simple template component that I want to add. So now I've made a change to application process and I've added the plugin. I haven't changed anything else. From here, I can, in a couple clicks, I can use this publish functionality to send out all the changes in one go. So I only have one app right now, but if I had 5 different apps, then I wouldn't have to go in and refresh every individual app. I would just be able to click publish, and it's going to go out to each app. So I can see which apps are subscribed and are going to be refreshed, what actions are going to happen. So I can see that the application process is going to be refreshed because it already exists in that other app. So it just needs the latest changes. And then the plugin, the video component plugin, does not already exist in that target application. So it will be added there. So I'm going to go ahead and click publish, and we should be good to go. Now I'm going to go to my subscribing app, and I'm going to confirm that it is up to date. It is. It was updated 16 seconds ago, and I should be able to see that my plugin has been added here. Perfect. All right, let's make one more change. How am I doing on time, Jason?
You're fine. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. Um, let's make another change. Let's just do like a simple change to let's rename one of the REST data sources, for example. Something simple, something easy. Let's go back to our reference application, share components. I'm going to choose my REST data sources, and we'll change search movies, and we'll just update the name of this from search movies to searched movies. Not that different, but different enough, right? I'll apply changes. And let's say I'm not going to push changes right now, right? I'm going to go back. I'm doing some work in my subscribing app, and I look at my REST data sources, and I can see that 3 of them are up to date, but that search movies needs to be refreshed. So I have a couple options. One, I can go to the component group and I can refresh the component group, and that will refresh this REST data source. I can also, uh, oh, I can also refresh this individual REST data source by clicking on it and scrolling down to or going to the subscription region. I can see the status needs refresh. So I can refresh this individual component. So say maybe the component group has a bunch of pending changes, and I only want to get this one change. So I can go ahead and refresh this REST data source, and it will be up to date now. I should see that the name is now searched movies, and this is only applying to this one REST data source. So nothing else in my component group was refreshed, just this one item. And so it's a nice way to be able to like target certain things. All right. I think with that, um, let me just double check that I'm not missing any details. If there are any additional open questions, I would be happy to answer those, or if people want to see some additional functionality. I think there was just one question that I believe is answered. So, yep, that wraps up this demo for me. And if anybody has any questions afterwards, please feel free to share them in the chat.
Thank you so much, Paige. This has been very great detail to share with the team and with all the boot campers and so forth. But I'd like you to just talk for a moment about the requirements here. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, right? This has to happen within the same workspace. You can't have an app in another workspace and somehow magically subscribe to a reference app in another workspace, right? Are there any other
Correct.
requirements or expectations around this functionality?
No, there are, I think, a few limitations to what components can be included. So when we are creating our component group, we are only given a certain list of components that can be included in that component group and in that subscription functionality. So I think in 24.1, the options for subscriptions, the components that can be subscribed, were expanded. So there's a pretty wide range of that, but yeah, I think really the main thing is everything has to be in the same workspace. It can't be in different workspaces. So it's great for teams that are working in the same workspace and need that common reference point for those custom components.
Right.
But Yep, it does have to be in the same workspace.
Okay. And Ali has just asked, is this functionality available in Apex 23, which she would imply 23.1 or 23.2?
Um, I might have to double check on when exactly it came out. It might have been in 23.1. Component groups were added in 24.1, so that's not available in Apex 23. But subscription functionality did exist prior to 24.1.
And also, I think it's worth noting to be clear that if you do utilize this functionality and you have multiple instances, a dev, UAT, or stage, or even production instance, that these reference apps also have to be moved with the other apps, right? It can't just be independent. They're not making copies of everything, but you have to actually do it yourself. Okay.
Right.
Very
Yep.
good. Thank you so much. I think that it looks like we've wrapped up our questions on this topic. Again, if you have any further questions for Paige, please add them in the chat here. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up the presentations we have today. I hope you've all enjoyed this content. The team has worked very hard to prepare for this particular event, also in Nashville, live when we did everything at the boot camp. And if there's any feedback you have at all for us in this content or any questions you have on how to take the next step with some of these features, we want to hear from you. So don't forget, you can reach out to me via email. I can then forward on to Leo or Paige or Noah if you have specific questions. We'd be very happy to entertain some of those. If it requires some kind of follow-up, we may entertain that opportunity as well. With all that having been said, though, I'll give you 10 minutes back on your day. Thank you all for attending this particular presentation for the bootcamp follow-up. And we hope to see you next year. We hope to see you next year at the Apex conference in Texas. And there will be another boot camp there, but of course you'll all be experts by then. But perhaps you'll be able to bring some colleagues of yours or other people that you know that could benefit from a boot camp experience that we'll be offering again at the Apex conference at Kscope in Texas. Beyond all that, thank you everyone. I will be making this video available as soon as it's ready, and I'll be sending it to the list of email addresses that you all received this meeting request on.